Ladies and gentlemen of the Joint Assembly and honored guests, I'm proud to present to you the Honorable James W. Oxford, National Commander of the American Legion.
Thank you, sir. Wow, thank you all. President Peeler, Speaker Lucas, Senators and Representatives, it is truly an honor to speak to such a distinguished body in this historic State House. But before I begin, please allow me a moment to introduce the members of the American Legion family who are with us today. We have with us the Commander of the South Carolina American Legion, Walt Richardson of Chapin. The Department Adjutant, Nick Diener of Columbia. Nick's National Executive Committeeman, Michael D. Strauss of North Augusta. It's also my pleasure to introduce my counterpart at the American Legion Auxiliary, National President Nicole Clapp of Gladbrook, Iowa. We also have the American Legion Auxiliary South Carolina President Roberta Bobby Center of Sumter. And also the Auxiliary Alternate National Executive Committee woman for South Carolina, Judy Hennis from Earls Inlet. And this is not in the script, but I'd like to ask all Legionnaires from South Carolina, please stand, would you? Thank you. During the last several addresses made here by my predecessors, they acknowledged the Director of the South Carolina Division of Veterans Affairs, Howard Metcalf. I wish I could continue that tradition, but God has called him to where we in the American Legion affectionately refer to as post-everlasting. A retired Sergeant Major, Director Metcalf spent an entire career serving his country, which included a tour as a soldier in Vietnam. He was particularly dedicated to increasing opportunities for women and minorities. As the Director of Veterans Affairs, he served the 400,000 veterans in South Carolina with great honor. He will be missed. I'd like to thank this body for Senate Resolution 1058 passed in his memory. This state legislature is the only one in the United States that annually extends an invitation for the national commander of the nation's largest veterans organization to address it. The significance of such an honor is deeply appreciated by the American Legion. Next week, I will be addressing a joint session of Congress and will reiterate some of the same points that I will make today. It's the work of bodies such as this and the U.S. Congress that George Washington referred to in his farewell address as, and I quote, the benign influence of good laws under a free government, end quote. My military career began in 1967 as a Marine recruit standing on the yellow footprints at Parris Island right here in South Carolina. Hoorah. I was able to visit the Parris Island again 2 days ago, and needless to say, my reception this time was a little warmer than last time around. A colonel at Parris Island that we met with told me that the same bugs that bit us in '67 are still here today biting recruits. The training's tough, but I never met a Marine that regretted making that decision. A tour in the Marine Corps exposes young men and women to various skills and occupations. But if you ask any Marine, they'll tell you about an impressive group that they call their docs, also known as Navy Corpsmen. Regardless of service branch, corpsmen, medics, nurses, the skills of these men and women are without question. Many times those life-saving skills have been tested under fire in hostile conditions and environments. But these skills don't just have to benefit the people serving in the military. We are exceptionally pleased that this legislature is considering the Veterans Nursing Degree Opportunity Act. This act gives South Carolina colleges and universities the option of creating degree programs that recognize the value of military experience in health care. The Department of Health and Human Services estimates that South Carolina alone will face a shortage of more than 10,000 nurses by 2030. The Veterans Nursing Degree Opportunity Act sounds like a win-win, good for South Carolina and good for this country's veterans. While we in the American Legion welcome the removal of bureaucratic hurdles to simplify the certification process, we do not believe in lowering standards. And by hiring veterans, you're doing the opposite. When you're hiring a veteran, you're selecting a person who's proven through their military service that they are disciplined performers capable of accomplishing their mission under stressful conditions. They are usually physically fit and equally adept at following orders. They can be flexible and quickly innovate based on changing conditions. The men and women of the U.S. military have withstood and often excelled in some of the most challenging training in the world. And that training must continue after these men and women leave the military service. There are many outstanding colleges, universities, and vocational schools in South Carolina. Sadly, there are some subpar schools and online institutions in this country and overseas that use deceptive marketing to separate veterans from their well-earned GI benefits. By offering little value, they are not only shortchanging student veterans, but they are committing fraud on U.S. taxpayers. The American Legion is calling on the federal government to provide better oversight and close some of the loopholes that allow these for-profit sham schools to exploit unsuspecting students. One prestigious school that you're very familiar with, USC, the University of South Carolina, is being led by President Robert Caslin, a retired lieutenant general and the former superintendent of West Point. A recent newspaper column in the state actually ran the headline, "Caslin's top staff are veterans or have military connections. Is that good for USC?" Let me answer that. Yes. Military service requires a lot more than trigger pulling and marching. The U.S. military leads the world in technological innovations. In addition to academic excellence, the bright men and women attending our service academies must excel in physical training, adhere to strict honor codes, and learn and excel in the value of leadership. If you value diversity, look no further than our military, which is truly a melting pot of excellence. Any American university or college would be well served by including a large representation of veterans among its leadership and student body. This legislature should be commended for its recent creation of the South Carolina Department of Veterans Affairs. Good move. For many years, the American Legion worked to have the U.S. Veterans Administration elevated to cabinet status that it enjoys today. The U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs is far from perfect, but since 1989, it has been led by secretaries who have been vetted and confirmed by Congress. With the increased status comes increased scrutiny. We, the American Legion, believe that's a good thing. It not only empowers the department to better serve its constituency, but it serves a powerful message that veterans are an important priority. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to tour the Dorn VA Medical Center right here in Columbia. I was impressed with the dedication and commitment of the staff. The hospice wing offered the peace and comfort that any family would want for their terminally ill loved ones. The women's clinic was specifically attuned and sensitive to issues facing the fastest growing segment of veterans, our females. One official at the center asked us a very simple question. If we can commit $2.5 million for the coronavirus, and we all acknowledge that's worthwhile and serious, why can't we spend the same amount to prevent 20 plus veterans a day committing suicide? I think it's a matter of outreach and appropriate messaging, and South Carolina sends an excellent message to its veterans. This legislative session in particular has shown its appreciation for veterans through the Workforce Enhancement and Military Recognition Act. If it becomes law, it will exempt military pensions from state income tax. This will be a powerful incentive for military veterans to choose South Carolina as their new home once they hang up their uniforms. This is a state with a strong military presence. You're home to 8 military installations, not including the Guard and Reserve units. You have over 500,000 men and women on active duty and in the reserves. Men and women of every ethnic background, religious belief, and economic status. South Carolina is a state that gave us Andrew Jackson, General William Westmoreland, and Challenger astronaut Ronald McNair, and produced 38 Medal of Honor recipients. It's also blessed with a legendary and beloved Legionnaire, past National Commander E. Roy Stone of Greenville. Commander Stone served in World War II and was so dedicated to our organization that he earned the title Mr. Legionnaire. He described his vision for our organization in an essay that's so poignant that it motivated Representative Sonny Montgomery of Mississippi to enter it into the congressional record in 1994. Time does not allow me to read its entirety, but a longer excerpt can be found in the December issue of the American Legion magazine. It's titled, "This We Believe." By calling on veterans to keep faith with their fallen comrades, Commander Stone's words ring as true today as they did when he first uttered them. And I quote, "We must rededicate ourselves to the ideals of our organization. Be active, keep faith with our fallen comrades. We must gird ourselves for any legislative fight that may become necessary and see that any veteran who needs hospital or nursing care will have it. No compromise. Right's right, wrong's wrong. As we celebrate our years of service to community, state, and nation, we are proud of our past record of accomplishments. We look forward to an even brighter future." End quote. Thanks to the dedicated men and women gathered in this room and the patriotic citizens of South Carolina, I share Commander Stone's optimism for our bright future. And if I could have a moment of personal privilege, allow me one moment to call to the dais 2 members of this distinguished body who have proven that they are not only great lawmakers, but they are advocates for those who have served. They have been picked and designated by the American Legion Department of South Carolina as the outstanding members of the legislature for 2020. They are friends of veterans and the American Legion. Senator Ronnie Comer, Representative Michael Rivers Sr., would you please join me? Okay. Senator, congratulations. Thank you very much. We need to pose for a picture somewhere. Okay. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Good day, sir. Nice to see you, man. Yeah, let's get this one. We'll get 2 of them together. Let me do it right. Gentlemen, we appreciate all you do on behalf of veterans. Thank you to South Carolina. God bless America and God bless y'all. Thank you. Thank you. y'all. Thank you, sir. Good to see y'all.